Hello class. In Module 9 we discussed some of the barriers we would encounter when implementing our action plan for leadership development. Each of you gave specific examples in your particular setting, and I was struck by the level of thoughtfulness that you demonstrated. For some, those barriers tend to be structural. What is it about the way the organization is designed or how it functions that prohibit the plan from taking place? Another way to look at it is where along the hierarchical links and functions of the organization are you most likely to encounter resistance, and what does this resistance look like? Is it manifested in a person who has apprehensions for whatever reason, or is it a process that needs to be challenged? For others, barriers are what I would call more relational or communicative in nature, where the bottleneck, if you will, is the communication capacity of those affected. For these types of barriers, I'm glad many of you talked about the importance of clarifying the mission and ensuring that the vision that results from implementing the action plan is clearly understood. Furthermore, the idea that the vision is constructed from within is a big step in overcoming any negative perceptions from people. Think back to one of our exemplary practices of leadership, as this barrier reminds us to inspire a shared vision. What are the hopes and dreams of others in your plan, and have they been accounted for? If people cannot see themselves as important for the future, they are less likely to be on board, and an important role for the leader is to constantly work on communicating and continual encouragement of others in a way that speaks to them personally. For all the discussion about barriers to executing an action plan, it is the factors that influence the plan moving forward that I find very interesting. The idea of culture is something that I noticed was implicit in many of the responses, which leads to the question, how exactly does one define a leadership culture? I bring you back to one of the seminal authors on the subject of culture, Edgar Schein, who in his book, Organizational Culture and Leadership, noted a model for cultural change, which included the need to recognize that there is an element of fear in the process of change, or in our case, implementing an action plan. The fear can be a loss of identity or affiliation in people. That is, if a change happens, a typical response could be, then what becomes of my function? Alleviating anxieties and fears in people are just one of the many factors that Schein discussed. And one principle that stands out is the idea that the change goal, or again in our case, the action plan, should comprise of goals and concrete objectives rather than culture change being a goal. In fact, culture change is the direct result of a series of actions over time. So what then is a leadership culture? Well, I think in doing what you all are doing in your respective settings, you're creating that. It is those little things that in the aggregate, when hopefully you look back and in retrospect say that you help build that. How you communicate, how you foster change, how you, using our exemplary practices, model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, empower others to act, and encourage the heart, all play a part in it. There's a concept from the Inuit culture that describes the role of a leader, and I think it's quite apropos to what we're talking about this week. The word is sometimes associated with leadership function is isumatak. It is defined as the person who creates the atmosphere in which wisdom reveals itself. Another way it can be said is that it is the person who creates the conditions in which the collective wisdom of the community can flourish. Now think about that for our organizations, whether schools, associations, corporations, businesses, or even official public entities and services. Does your leadership plan account for the wisdom, talent, skills, and energies that exist? And how do you, as a leader, build the structures, processes, and actions to make sure that will occur? That will be the focus of your final assignment. But for now, and as always, finish up discussions on this module, and I will see you all online.